Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and lately I haven't really been doing too much on my cars. There is a couple of jobs that I've been doing on MAUDE, my MAUDE Mk2 Escort, which I'll show you later on in the video. But first, I'm going to turn my attention to Winston, my girlfriend Kat's plastic Ford Fiesta. As I mentioned in a recent video, there's a bit of damage to deal with on Winston's driver's side wing mirror. I think it was kicked off on purpose by someone coming home from the pub drunk, because it was actually on the pavement side rather than the road side. Now these are the new bits we've bought. That's the backing piece. But I also noticed when I looked at the wing mirror that this piece was broken, which is just the border to the glass basically. Luckily the actual glass itself isn't broken and the wing mirror unit itself isn't broken, so I don't need to deal with taking the wing mirror off of the door or anything. So this job should be quite easy, but we'll see. Right, so as you can see, Kat has done a bit of a repair job using sellotape, so I don't really need to fix it then, do I?
Yeah.
All this pretty much just clips together, you know, there's no screws or bolts or anything. The only problem I've got is that I can't get this border off without first taking the glass off, so I'm gonna have a go at that. Oh, just like that. That obviously needs to go in there. Broke it. Oh no, not professional. It's going to break, I just know it is. Right, so I noticed that one of these little locking peg things seemed a bit too thick to go through the hole that it needs to go through. Luckily, our neighbour, Phil, had a portable grinder, so I was able to grind it down a little bit. That's Phil's plumbing business. If you're in Elstree, Borehamwood area and you need a plumber. Yeah. So that now goes through that hole easily. I probably grinded off a little bit too much, to be honest, but life goes on. That needs to go in that slit. See, they're supposed to poke through there. Yeah. There's just no way. Right, the problem I'm having now is that the little tabs for the cover won't click into the slots here. These slots are definitely thinner than the ones on the original border. I noticed these bits here seemed broken, and that's why I asked Kat to order a new border, but those bits don't seem that important. So I think I'm going to try and refit the original border. Even that clips in better.
There you go.
Have you got electric mirrors?
Yeah.
Right, so we ended up using the original border and it's gone together. Wasn't easy and it's not a great fit, but it is on there. This is a pattern cover, but Kat paid a bit extra to have it painted in metallic panther black, so it actually matches the rest of the car. You can actually get these in pairs of just gloss black and they're a lot cheaper. But yeah, this border isn't a great fit. I could make it fit by filing out those holes, but you know, the original Ford one was salvageable, so we'll keep this for the next time that someone kicks your wing mirror off.
No next time.
I'll leave links in the description to the eBay listings for those parts, but to be honest, I'd highly recommend that if you need to do a job like this, you just get a second-hand original Ford wing mirror, and then that way you know that everything will go together properly. Alright, so I'm at my other garage. I'm just waiting for Kat to get here because I've got something else to look at on Winston. But while I'm waiting, I've got a couple of things to show you. First of all, I think I've cured the carb leak. Now, loads of you have been in touch to give me advice regarding the carb leak, which I really appreciate. And what it actually turned out to be was the fuel pressure. Now, I've got this fuel pressure regulator mounted to the inner wing, and basically, if you take this top nut off, which is loose, it shouldn't be, and then you crack off this locking nut, and then you're able to turn this little thing here to adjust your fuel pressure. I've got this gauge that basically screws into there. I don't like leaving the gauge on there all the time, because the way I see it is the gauge is going to stay more accurate the less you use it, which is why I put this little blanking bung in there, and then I just use this whenever I want to check the pressure. Now, the fuel pressure was something that I'd overlooked, because about 6 months ago when I gave the carb a little mini rebuild, I did check the pressure. These twin choke DGV carbs run best when the fuel pressure is set to between 2.5 and 3 psi. Now, I always set the fuel pressure for these carbs at 3 psi exactly, but when I checked it the other day, it was a tiny bit over 3 psi. And what I've done now is I've set it to just below 3 psi, and the leak seems to have gone. And I don't seem to be getting any problems with fuel starvation or anything, so Yeah, that's sweet. Another thing that's new on MAUDE is this alloy switch panel that's powder coated black. I got this off of eBay, but I think it came from Motorsport Tools, but I'll leave a link to the listing in the description of this video. Now what that prompted me to do was to start having a look at the wiring in this car, because it is an absolute mess. When I was around here yesterday, I removed the radio wiring because I don't think I'm ever going to need to use that, and that's quite simple to wire back in if I do need to. The fuel pump relay is literally just taped to the loom over here, so I'm thinking I'm probably going to extend the wires and then mount it on the kick panel here. Tomorrow I'm going to spend a bit of time tidying these wires up. I had to cut a square in the switch panel for this original switch. This is the hazard switch. I've done it quite crudely using a drill and then a file, so I don't really have any power tools around here apart from a portable drill. But yeah, it came out quite neat. Switch doesn't naturally sit in the hole very straight, but maybe I can sort of hold it straight and put a blob of araldite somewhere, but I'm not that fussed. And I've put the cigarette lighter here. The one that was in the dash before didn't work, and I actually just had it hanging down here just so that I could charge my phone and that. The only other switch in the original switch panel was the rear heated screen switch, and that doesn't work. And then I also had this launch control button. What I want to do with the launch control is have it so it's on a toggle switch just to activate it, and then try and set up a switch on the clutch pedal to actually arm it, rather than having to hold the button to do launch control. So I haven't drilled a hole or anything for that yet. Now I'm probably going to be mounting the ME100 ECU on here. I mocked it up yesterday. So that's exactly what I did in the Mark 1. I've got the ME221 velcroed to the switch panel. And the reason that I velcro the ECUs to the dashboard is that if you ever park the car anywhere and you want to add an extra layer of security, you can just unplug the ECU and put it in your pocket. Over this side of the dash I've got the MAUDES here, so obviously when the new engine's fitted and I'm using the ME100, a lot of this will be gone. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Fred? Yeah, good, you? Check the bimmer cap. Alright, so Kat's been saying that Winston's brakes have been squeaking ever since I changed the pads. But I didn't put these shims in when I done the job, so I don't know if they'll stop the squeaking, but just jack them up, take it apart and have a look. There's still plenty of meat on the pads, as expected. They weren't changed that long ago. I'm going to just take the caliper apart, re-grease it and fit these shims and then see how that goes. Alright, so that's it all together. I checked that the slide pins were moving nice and freely, which they were, so yeah, hopefully with those shims in there and a bit of extra grease, the squeak should be sorted. Nath's arrived, diving straight into the other side. See, Nath's clever, he just takes one of the bolts out and then you can just lift it up like that to take the pads out. He knows what he's doing, I don't. Right, so time will tell if Winston's brakes are going to squeak. Hello, right, into a new day and straight into tidying up the wiring behind Maud's dash. I've already made a start, I've removed the switch panel, I've got that out of the way, and I've started using my multimeter to test what's what. You know, there's a lot of extra wires here, what I was unsure what were lives and what were earths, and yeah, so I've started labelling that up. What I'm going to do now though is I'm going to make an extension so that I can mount this relay on this kick panel. As I did in the Mark 1, I'm going to mount this relay holder on the kick panel, and then it's just a case of plugging the relay into the holder. So if you need to change it or anything, it's really simple. A little bit of rust here, seems quite solid, but you know, things like that will be done when the wings get taken off. A little bit up there, still feels solid, but definitely all going orange. I've wired up this little relay holder. I've only done 3 wires because the wire that goes to the fuel pump is actually long enough that I'll just be able to use the original wire, cut it where I need to, and then add a spade terminal to that and just press that into the other port on the relay holder. And I've mounted two here because I will also be relocating the ECU relay, and that's currently strapped to the loom on the driver's side of the dash. That's the fuel pump relay, all relocated now, all wired up. All the joints have been soldered and heat shrunk. And the fuel pump works, which is handy. And now I'm going to do the same thing for the ECU relay. The trigger and the earth, I'll just tap into the trigger and earth wires for this relay, because the ECU and the fuel pump just need to come on when the ignition's on. And the feed directly from the battery, I'll tap into this one as well. Alright, so that's both relay holders wired up now, apart from this really long red wire, which would need to plug into the MAUDES. Alright, so where I'm at now, I don't know if it looks any tidier to you, but I'm certainly starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel over this side of the loom. I've got rid of a lot of wires that weren't doing anything. Got the relays in the holder now with their fuses. And I fed that red wire along the loom, and that's now wired up, powering the MAUDES. I've just used spade terminals to do this up because this is only going to be temporary. There was an inline fuse on this wire. That's why this MAUDES wire already had a spade on it. So I just added a male one to this wire and just plugged it in. I'll cover it up in tape though. Now that I'm using a relay that's actually got a fuse built in, I don't need this inline fuse holder. So now in theory, the fuel pump and the MAUDES should come on with the key. No fuel pump, but the MAUDES has come on. This is the relay that was wired up to the fuel pump, and it looks like this post is pushed in a bit. I'll just try this relay in its place. The fuel pump comes on. So yeah, this relay is obviously dodgy. Don't have any more relays in my spares that have got the built-in fuse. Probably can't see the numbers on the camera, but the pin layout is different. If I was going to use one of the relays without the fuse and then just wire up an inline fuse temporarily, I'd have to rearrange the pins in the holder, which I don't really want to do. So in a bid to try and save this relay, at least temporarily, I've melted the plastic around that terminal that keeps getting pushed in, just letting it cool down, and we'll see if that will hold it up. Feels a bit more solid. So now we should have the fuel pump and the ECU. Sweet. So once I actually get some decent screws to screw that up there, that's all this side of the loom sorted. Now this green light, the bulb in there is, well, non-existent, but I measured the voltage when the hazards were on, and the voltage was flashing on and off, on and off. So if I get a bulb for that, I can drill a hole for that in the new switch panel. Alright, so onto this side. It's getting dark, so I'm going to have to stop now, but I'll carry on tidying that up tomorrow. One last job for this evening. Winston's getting a new battery. Oh well, I only lost one nut. Into a new day and straight back into Spaghetti Junction. It's actually 2 days since the last clip, and I managed to spend a little bit of time on this yesterday on my break. As you can see, I've removed the rev counter, which wasn't working properly, and as it turned out of all those wires that were going to earth over here, the only one that was actually connected to anything was the earth for the rev counter. I have now connected this brown wire to the kick panel, and I've run that along underneath the dash round to here, and that will now be the earth for the cigarette lighter. But if I do want to add anything else in the future to the loom, then all the earths for anything extra will be connected to this brown wire. All these wires over here are things like the shift light wires, which I'm going to leave long, just in case I do end up reusing this shift light when I do have the ME100 mounted over here. We've also got the wire that goes from the rev counter to the MAUDES, which I've just wrapped up there, and then this orange wire is the wire for the launch control. Yesterday I managed to drive about 10 yards before that fuel pump relay failed on me, so the bodge that I did obviously wasn't good enough. I had to use a loop of wire to bridge the terminals on that relay holder just to get me to work, and now I've replaced that relay with a new one. So overall, this wiring loom is a lot less of a mess. I know it probably doesn't look like it at the moment, but you know, I've got rid of a lot of wires that are not needed. So now it's all about just tidying it up to make it look better. I managed to get hold of some decent screws yesterday from Wicks. Unfortunately, with this screwed to the kick panel, the screw gets in the way of the relay. So I've just carved a little bit out of the side of the relay, just so that will slide on while the screw is there. Now, rather than just wrapping all this loom up in electrical tape, I'm going to wrap it in this stuff that I got from Car Builders Solutions. It's got a slit all the way down, so you don't have to actually feed the wires through it. You can sort of wrap it around it. Now, I've got 3 different sizes, but I think the loom along here could do with a slightly bigger one, but Car Builder Solutions only do these 3 sizes, so I'm hoping to find some of this stuff elsewhere slightly bigger. Because I don't need to wrap the loom, it means that if I do need to do any more wiring in the future, it'd be a lot easier. I won't have to spend ages unraveling all the electrical tape, which goes really gooey as well when it's been on there for ages. It can be a bit difficult to get it on there, but that kind of gives me more confidence that it's going to stay in shape in the long term. And then you obviously just put a couple of bits of tape here and there, just hold it in place. And then because it is split down the length, whenever you've got a wire that needs to come out of the loom, you know, it can just literally come out the split. Bit of tape either side of that wire and that'd be sweet. Looks so much better. I've also experimented just seeing how far this conduit would get round these thicker bits of the loom, and as you can see, it doesn't reach round. I think this is 25mm, and the biggest one I'm able to find online is 28mm, so I think even with the extra 3mm it won't reach. But this loom will be tucked up around this heater hose anyway, so it'll still be out of sight. And then a lot of this will be hidden by the switch panel. So yeah, you can see with it tucked away behind that heater hose, it's already a lot neater anyway. And there it is with the switch panel back in. You know, before you could just see wires everywhere down here, so it really does look a lot neater. Hear that rattle? It's bad, isn't it? So with the wiring tidied up behind Maude's stash, it's going to make things so much easier in the future when I need to wire things up, including when I wire up the ME100 ECU that's going to be running Maude's new engine. I might actually wire up the ME100 soon and see if I can get Maude's current engine running on it, but that'll be for another day. For now, I'm going to end this video here, but before I do, I want to send a massive thanks out to everyone for your continued support of my channel, especially those who have purchased stickers and those who regularly get in touch to give me advice. If you did think this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe and activate the notification bell to be kept right up to date with any other videos that I post in the future. Make sure you check out my Facebook and my Instagram, and I'll leave the links you need for that in the description, along with my email address for anyone who wants to contact me. If you would like to purchase stickers, details about that will be in the description as well. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.